If you have a balance, I'll pay you double. Manager Thomas Richardson's cruel laughter echoed through the Premier Trust Bank branch in Manhattan as he watched the 14-year-old black girl standing at his counter. Seriously, kid, are you sure you're at the right bank? The community branch is 3 blocks away. Jasmine Williams maintained the calm she had rehearsed mentally during the entire subway ride there. At 14, she knew exactly where she was and why she was there. What Mr. Richardson didn't know was that this visit was part of a much bigger plan. I need to open a premium checking account, Jasmine said firmly, placing her school ID on the Italian marble counter, and I'd like to deposit this. She slid a $50,000 check next to the document. The manager took the check as if it were a poorly rehearsed play. Her eyebrow arched in thinly veiled contempt. Honey, this must be some kind of school prank. Checks of this magnitude require prior verification and it's real. Jasmine interrupted softly. You can check it around. His other customers began to pay attention to the scene. Jennifer Morrison, a 40-year-old executive with a designer handbag, whispered to her friend. That's exactly why these kinds of people shouldn't have access to serious institutions. Thomas Richardson, manager of Premier Trust's most prestigious branch for 15 years, considered himself a guardian of the institution's standards. Her family had been in banking for 3 generations. She had an MBA from an expensive private university, and she had connections to New York's financial elite. And now, here was this child trying to deposit a check that she had probably stolen or forged. Listen, hear her. Thomas leaned over the counter, her voice low but laden with veiled menace. I don't know what game you're playing, but bank fraud is a federal crime. I'm going to have to call security and the police. Jasmine didn't flinch. In the last 3 months, since her father, David Williams, took over as CEO of Premier Trust, she had learned a lot about banks, systemic discrimination, and above all, how people revealed their true characters when they thought they were dealing with someone inferior. A quick flashback crossed her mind. The dinner meeting 2 weeks ago when her father mentioned receiving troubling reports about racial discrimination at some branches. I need to see this with my own eyes, he had said, concerned. And Jasmine, always observant, always strategic, had an idea, Dad, she had said. Let me do a test. I'll visit some agencies as a normal customer. You'll be shocked by what he finds out. Her father resisted at first, her 14-year-old daughter exposed to explicit racism. But Jasmine insisted, someone needs to document this for real. And they'll never suspect a teenager. Now, as Thomas Richardson summoned the security guard with an imperious gesture, Jasmine discreetly activated the recording function on his smartwatch, a gift from his father, equipped with state-of-the-art technology. Every word, every look of contempt, every malicious laugh was being documented. Mike, Thomas called to the security guard. A large man in his 50s. We have a situation here. Possible fraud, possibly theft. Keep the girl here while I call the police. A gray-haired gentleman, Mr. Patterson, a customer for 30 years, nodded his approval. That's right, Thomas. You have to protect our institution from this kind of element. Jasmine watched everything with disconcerting serenity. She had anticipated every reaction, every word of hatred disguised as banking protocol. His little mental notebook recorded Thomas Richardson, Jennifer Morrison, Mr. Patterson, Mike the security guard. They would all be remembered when the truth came out. The check is for my father, Jasmine said calmly. He gave it to her as an early birthday present. He, Williams. Thomas paused for a millisecond, long enough for Jasmine to see a flash of recognition cross his face before it was replaced by more arrogance. Of course it is, he said with venomous sarcasm. And I'm the cousin of the bank president. What Thomas didn't know was that David Williams was exactly 2 blocks away in a cafe monitoring everything through the live feed from Jasmine's smartwatch. By his side, Margaret Chun, head of human resources, and Robert Martinez, general counsel, watched in horror as they took meticulous notes. Mike the security guard was already approaching when Jennifer Morrison decided to add her poisonous contribution. Frankly, these people think they can just walk in anywhere. No manners, no class, it's pathetic, gentlemen. Jasmine's voice maintained that irritating calm, that unshakable dignity that Thomas found completely inappropriate for someone of his class. Are you sure you want to continue with this? There was something in his eyes, a confidence, a secret knowledge that made Thomas hesitate for half a second. But he had already gone too far to back down. Absolutely, Thomas replied, picking up the phone. Hello, police. I have a minor here trying to deposit a fraudulent check for $50,000. Yes, I'll keep her restrained until you arrive. Jasmine allowed herself a small smile. Not one of fear, not one of nervousness, but one of someone who had just witnessed the enemy fall into their own trap. While Thomas called the police with false authority, while Jennifer and Mr. Patterson exchanged racist comments disguised as concern, While Mike blocked the exit as if Jasmine were a dangerous criminal, the 14-year-old girl remained calm. She thought of all the other black children who had probably suffered at the hands of people like Thomas. All the silent humiliations, all the closed doors, all the dreams destroyed by institutionalized prejudice. But today would be different. Today, justice would have a name, a face, and a lesson that would resonate throughout the banking system. If this story of prejudice and courage left his heart racing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what happens when the police arrive and discover who Jasmine really is will make you believe that sometimes justice comes to those who have the patience and strategy to wait for the right moment to reveal all their cards. Minutes later, 2 NYPD cars pulled up in front of the branch. Officers Reynolds and Kowalski entered with the tired expressions of those who had already responded to too many calls that day. "Did someone report fraud?" asked Officer Reynolds, a 45-year-old veteran with over 20 years on the force. Thomas practically ran to meet his team. Her posture transformed into performative authority. "Officers, thank you for arriving so quickly." This minor, he pointed to Jasmine as if she were evidence, tried to deposit a fraudulent check for $50,000. Officer Kowalski looked at Jasmine, then at Thomas. "Does she have identification?" "Yes, she does," Jasmine replied calmly, handing over her school ID and an American passport. "And the check is legitimate. It was issued by his father, David Williams, from his account at this very bank." Reynolds examined the documents while Kowalski accessed the bank system with Thomas's permission. The absolute confidence on Thomas's face began to waver when he saw the officer frowning. "Mr. Richardson," Kowalski said quietly, "the check appears to be legitimate in the system. Active account. Funds available." Thomas felt his blood run cold. "That's impossible. Let me see." He practically snatched the tablet from the officer's hands, his fingers trembling as he typed frantically. There it was, David Williams, CEO of Premier Trust, authorized transfer to Jasmine Williams, daughter, Jennifer Morrison, who had approached to witness what she hoped would be the girl's arrest. Notice the change in Thomas's expression. "What is it? Did she fake the system too?" "Gentlemen," Jasmine's voice cut through the tense air. "Do you want to know why I'm really here today?" The question took everyone by surprise. Thomas looked up from the tablet, his face quickly losing color. 3 months ago, Jasmine began, her voice clear and firm. "My father took over as CEO of this bank. One of the first things he noticed were hundreds of complaints about racial discrimination at various branches. A flashback crossed her mind. The night she found her father in his home office surrounded by reports, his expression heavy with sadness and anger. "Look at this Jazz," he had said, showing her letters from Black and Latino customers who were treated like criminals just for walking into branches. Legitimate customers being escorted out, a woman being accused of using stolen cards, young people being searched by security. "Dad, you need to see this for yourself," Jasmine had suggested, and then the plan came together. "Over the past 6 weeks," Jasmine continued, "I visited 12 Premier Trust branches. 6 of them treated me normally, but 6, including this one, treated me exactly as his just did." Officer Reynolds crossed his arms, interested. "Go on." Thomas tried to interrupt. "This is absurd. I followed standard protocols for protocols." Jasmine cut him off, her voice maintaining that irritating calm. "Interesting, because yesterday my friend Chelsea, white, same age, dressed in similar clothes, came to the same branch to deposit a check for $40,000. Do you know how you treated her, Mr. Richardson?" Silence was his answer. She recorded everything too. Jasmine tapped his smartwatch discreetly. He processed the deposit in less than 10 minutes. He offered her coffee. He addressed her respectfully as Miss. He didn't ask for extra documentation. He didn't call the police. Jennifer Morrison took a step back, finally understanding the magnitude of what she had participated in. Mr. Patterson tried to slip out discreetly, but Mike, the security guard, inadvertently blocked the exit. "Do you know the difference between me and Chelsea?" Jasmine asked, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of injustice. "She's white, I'm black, same age, same bank, same type of transaction, but completely different treatment." Thomas was sweating profusely now. I didn't discriminate against anyone. It was just standard security protocol." "Lies," said a firm voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see David Williams entering the branch flanked by Margaret Chen and Robert Martinez, the CEO of Premier Trust himself, in his impeccable suit and commanding presence that commanded immediate respect. "Daddy," Jasmine said simply, a small smile touching his lips for the first time. Thomas's face went from red to gray. Jennifer Morrison let out an audible gasp. "Mr. Patterson tried to literally melt into the wall. "Mr. Williams," Thomas stammered, extending a trembling hand. "I didn't know she was his daughter. If I had known, exactly, David interrupted, ignoring the outstretched hand. If you had known she was his daughter, he would have treated her with respect. But an unknown black girl? She becomes automatically suspicious. Margaret Chun opened her tablet, showing the live feed from Jasmine's smartwatch. We have it all on tape. Every word, every discriminatory action. Robert Martinez, the lawyer, looked at the officers. Officers Reynolds and Kowalski, thank you for responding to the call. But as you can see, this was a documented social experiment to expose systemic discriminatory practices in our institution. Officer Reynolds looked at Jasmine with new respect. Smart girl and brave, Thomas was still trying to process. Mr. Williams, please let me explain. I was just destroying my bank's reputation. David cut him off, exposing this institution to lawsuits for racial discrimination, violating federal civil rights by criminally profiling his daughter based solely on the color of her skin. Jennifer Morrison began to cry quietly, finally understanding that his poisonous comments have been captured and would be used as evidence. My daughter, David, placed his hand on Jasmine's shoulder with visible pride, has just systematically documented a pattern of discrimination that I will use to clean this bank from top to bottom. Jasmine looked directly at Thomas. You said that if I had equity, I would pay double, remember? Well, Mr. Richardson, technically I have much more than equity. His father owns 30% of the shares in this bank. The irony did not go unnoticed. The man who had mocked the equityless black girl discovered that she was part owner of the very institution he worked for. And now, Jasmine continued, her voice taking on an edge that made Thomas shudder, you're going to find out that discrimination comes at a price much higher than $50,000. Thomas slumped into a nearby chair, his career crumbling before his eyes. Jennifer tried to whisper an apology, but the words died in her throat when she saw the expression on Margaret Chen's face, the HR manager, who was clearly already calculating layoffs and lawsuits. Mike, the security guard who had blocked Jasmine's exit minutes earlier, now looked like he wanted to disappear. Mr. Patterson, who had philosophized about inappropriate elements, was as pale as a sheet. But what none of them knew yet was that Jasmine had collected much more than just evidence of discrimination. Over the past 6 weeks, she had uncovered a much larger pattern, something that connected this agency to 6 others, something that would reveal not just individual racism, but a systematic conspiracy that went far beyond prejudiced managers. And while Thomas and the others absorbed the revelation of who Jasmine really was, the 14-year-old held another secret, one that would turn that personal victory into something much bigger, something that would change not just that agency, but the entire American banking system. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the prejudiced, it's using his own arrogance to destroy the entire structure that allows discrimination to flourish in the first place. Wait! Thomas stood up abruptly, his voice oscillating between despair and anger. I demand to speak to my lawyer. This is a trap, an elaborate hoax to frame him. David Williams looked at the manager with an expression that mixed disappointment and determination. Mr. Richardson, you have every right to legal representation. In fact, I strongly recommend that you get it as soon as possible. It was then that a woman entered the agency, Catherine Brooks, investigative reporter for the New York Times, accompanied by a small film crew. Jasmine had coordinated her arrival perfectly. Mr. Williams, Catherine greeted him professionally, as agreed. We are here to document this investigation into systemic discriminatory practices. Jennifer Morrison let out a muffled scream. Are you recording this? Is this going to the paper? Not just the Times, Jasmine replied calmly, tapping his tablet. Over the past 6 weeks, she has documented systematic discrimination at 6 different Premier Trust branches. Every visit was recorded, every interaction documented. She opened a digital folder that made Thomas physically recoil. On the screen, dozens of videos organized by date and location. Brooklyn branch refused to process my check without gang verification. Jasmine narrated, Queens branch called security before I even reached the counter. That proves nothing, Thomas tried, but his voice trembled. Those were isolated misunderstandings? The voice came from the doorway. It was Victoria Chun, manager of another branch whom Jasmine had secretly contacted weeks earlier. Mr. Richardson, I heard you training new employees. Observe clothing and body language. You said certain profiles require extra verification? Thomas paled even more. Victoria, one of the few minority managers at the bank, had been instructed by Jasmine to discreetly document the unofficial policies of discrimination. I have emails, Victoria continued, approaching David with a flash drive. Internal communications where managers discussed filtering out undesirable clientele. Memos about maintaining institutional standards. Margaret Chun, the head of HR, took the flash drive with trembling hands. What she would find there could destroy not only careers, but expose the bank to million-dollar federal lawsuits. Mr. Patterson tried to slip out discreetly, but Catherine blocked the exit with a microphone. Mr. Patterson, a client since 1994, correct? Would you like to comment on her statement that certain elements do not belong in this institution? He was joking. It was taken out of context. Jasmine watched everything with controlled satisfaction. Months of meticulous planning were unfolding perfectly. But he still held his final trump card, Dad, Jasmine said. There's something else I need to show you. David looked at her with curiosity mixed with pride. His 14-year-old daughter had orchestrated an investigative operation worthy of seasoned prosecutors. Jasmine opened another file on her tablet, while investigating discrimination. I discovered something bigger. Do you remember how Chelsea, her white friend, was treated yesterday? Everyone nodded, still processing the stark comparison between the two interactions. Not only was she treated well, Mr. Richardson offered her high-risk investments without any warning about the dangers. Jasmine paused dramatically. Investments for which he received undeclared commissions. Thomas's face turned from white to gray. You can't prove that. Audio recording, Jasmine pressed play. Thomas's voice echoed through the agency. Between us, honey. These investments yield generous commissions that don't show up on my official salary. Wink, wink. Robert Martinez, the lawyer, closed his eyes briefly. Financial fraud on top of racial discrimination. This was fuel for a full federal investigation. Wait, Jennifer Morrison had a terrible insight. You said Chelsea came yesterday exactly. And last week at the Bronx agency, it was his cousin Diego. And 2 weeks ago, his Aunt Rachel, each with different profiles. Each documenting how they were treated. Jasmine smiled slightly. My family is quite diverse. Very useful for social experiments, Victoria added. And I documented the same discriminatory practices that Jasmine found. Managers being trained to offer worse products to Black and Latino customers. Parallel commission schemes, everything, Mike. The security guard finally spoke, her voice breaking. I was just following orders. Thomas told me to watch certain customers more closely. Shut up, Thomas shouted, completely losing his composure. You're going to sink everyone. Catherine Brooks captured every second. This wouldn't just be a story about banking discrimination. It would be an expose of systemic corruption. David took a deep breath. Jasmine, how many people are involved in this? 19 employees at 6 branches. She replied, all documented, all with irrefutable evidence. Officer Reynolds whistled softly. Girl, you have a future with the FBI, but Jasmine wasn't finished. And there's one more thing I discovered. Something that connects all these branches in a way no one would expect. Everyone in the branch turned to her. The silence was absolute, the tension palpable. In the next 48 hours, Jasmine continued, her calm voice contrasting with the bomb she was about to drop. You will discover that this discrimination was not random. It was systematic, coordinated, and profitable. And those responsible are not just branch managers. Thomas practically fell into his chair. Jennifer was crying openly. Mr. Patterson looked like he was about to faint. David looked at his daughter with admiration and slight concern. Jazz, what else did you find out? Jasmine tapped a final folder on her tablet, but didn't open it. That, Dad, you'll see along with the rest of the country tomorrow morning when this story explodes in every newspaper, every TV channel, every social network. She looked directly at Thomas. You laughed at me, Mr. Richardson. He said that if I had the balance, I would pay double. Well, get ready to pay a lot more than that. You and everyone else who turned prejudice into corporate policy. Justice was not only being served, it was being documented, broadcast, and poised to become the biggest banking scandal of the decade. And all because a 14-year-old girl had the courage to walk into a branch and let prejudice reveal itself in all her ugliness. But what no one there knew was that the real mastermind behind the discriminatory scheme had not yet been revealed. And when that person was exposed, the story would take a turn that even Jasmine had not fully anticipated. The digital folder that Jasmine was holding contained the final bombshell. She pressed play on an audio recording made 3 weeks earlier. The voice that echoed through the branch made everyone freeze. Thomas, do you understand the guidelines? Black and Latino customers receive low-yield products. That's how we keep our clientele premium. Premium. It was Gregory Foster, Regional Vice President of Premier Trust, the man responsible for overseeing all 6 branches where Jasmine had documented discrimination. Thomas lost all color in his face. Jennifer Morrison let out a gasp of horror. This wasn't just individual prejudice. It was coordinated corporate policy. There's more, Jasmine continued. Moving on to the next audio clip, Foster's voice again. Your bonuses depend on filtering properly. Understand? We want white money in this bank. Margaret Chun, the head of HR, dropped her tablet. Robert Martinez, the lawyer, muttered, My God, this is federal systematic discrimination. Over the past 6 weeks, Jasmine explained calmly, I have documented 47 conversations between Foster and managers from the 6 branches, all coordinating explicit racial discrimination, illegal commission schemes, and investment fraud. Thomas tried one last desperate gambit, her lying. This is a setup. Victoria Chin stepped forward. I recorded it too, Thomas. Remember when you offered me an extra bonus for discouraging clients from certain communities? The agency door flew open. Gregory Foster rushed in, his $3,000 suit in stark contrast to her expression of utter panic. David, Foster tried to smile, extending his hand. What a surprise. Can we talk in my office? I'd rather do it right here, Gregory, David replied coldly. In front of the New York Times cameras, Foster looked around, finally noticing Catherine Brooks and her crew filming everything. Her arrogance evaporated instantly. Those recordings, I can explain. It was taken out of context. Context, Jasmine interrupted him. How can keeping white money in the bank be taken out of context, Mr. Foster? Foster turned to her, not recognizing her at first. Who are you, child? This is adult business. She's my daughter, David cut in. And the bravest person I know, while you were building his empire of discrimination. She documented it piece by piece. Reality finally hit Foster like a train. That girl he had instructed he to screen out if she showed up was the CEO's daughter. No, this can't be happening. It is happening. Robert Martinez opened her briefcase. I have 89 pages of evidence here. Recordings, emails, witnesses, federal civil rights violations, bank fraud, conspiracy to discriminate. You're finished, Foster. Thomas fell to his knees, crying. I was just following orders. Foster told me to. I have a family. You had a choice, Jasmine said softly. Just as every person you humiliated today had a choice to treat me with dignity. Jennifer Morrison tried to approach Jasmine. Please, I have children. I didn't know it was his. That's exactly the problem, Jasmine replied. You only respect those you think deserve it. But dignity shouldn't depend on who we are, but on who she is, with what money, David asked calmly. His contract had a just cause termination clause. Racial discrimination qualifies. No severance, no references, no pension. Foster's transformation from powerful executive to broken man happened in seconds. He looked around the agency, employees avoiding his gaze, customers filming with cell phones, his career disintegrating live. Please, Foster whispered. Everything he's built. He built it on the suffering of others, Jasmine finished. And now he's reaping what he's sown, David turned to the agency staff. You had choices today. Some chose humanity. Others chose prejudice. The consequences will be proportional. Thomas, Jennifer, Mike the security guard, Mr. Patterson. They all faced not only dismissal but federal lawsuits. Her career, her reputation, and her freedoms were at stake. But the most devastating look was Foster's. Realizing that a 14-year-old girl had brought down his empire of hate with nothing but courage, intelligence, and principles. How could you? Foster could barely speak as a child. I'm not a child, Jasmine corrected. I'm Jasmine Williams. And you underestimated the strength of someone fighting for justice. As the police arrived to escort Foster and Thomas away, as camera flashes captured his utter humiliation, a silent truth echoed through the agency. Arrogance has a price, and today that price would be paid publicly, painfully and permanently, 8 months later. The premier trust agency in downtown Manhattan had become unrecognizable. Victoria Chun now ruled as regional manager, implementing revolutionary inclusion protocols that became a national model. Jasmine Williams, at 15, had become the youngest voice in the banking justice movement in the United States. His TEDx talk on systemic discrimination reached 12 million views. Harvard had already sent a letter of pre-mission. Gregory Foster, he was facing 23 federal charges. His penthouse apartment was auctioned off to pay for lawyers. Her husband filed for divorce, taking their children with her. He was seen working as an administrative assistant in an accounting office, earning less than the undesirable clients he so despised. Thomas Richardson lost everything, his house, his car, his reputation. No bank would hire him. He now worked in telemarketing, listening to abrupt hang-ups every day, an irony that did not go unnoticed. Jennifer Morrison moved to another state, but her viral participation in the video followed her like a permanent shadow. Every job interview ended with, "Aren't you the one from the discrimination video?" Premier Trust paid $47 million in settlements to victims of discrimination. But the real change was cultural. 847 employees were retrained or fired. New hires prioritized real diversity, not performative diversity. David Williams became a national spokesperson for banking reform, using his daughter's experience as a catalyst for legislative change. 3 states have already passed Jasmine Williams laws against financial discrimination. But the biggest victory, Jasmine never lost her essence. She still wore simple clothes, still took the subway, still treated everyone with dignity, because she learned that true strength comes not from humiliating others, but from elevating herself. He tried to diminish me, Jasmine said in her last interview. But I used his arrogance as fuel to set fire to an entire system of injustice. Gregory Foster, watching from his tiny apartment, turned off the TV with tears of regret. Too little, too late. Justice had a name, a face, and was 14 years old when it began, proving that courage has no age, and that underestimating someone based on their appearance is the quickest way to destroy his own empire. The best revenge is never just defeating those who have hurt you. It's using that pain to build something so great that her existence becomes impossible to ignore, transforming her own story of injustice into a beacon of hope for millions who still struggle to be seen as human. If this story touched her, leave a comment. Would she have the courage to do what Jasmine did? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories.